Is Cody Thixton, and this is Interesting Podcast. Coming to you guys live on January 27th, 2026 for episode 119, where today we actually have a very special guest. And now, ladies and gentlemen, it is an absolute privilege to introduce to you guys Evan Golden.
What's going on? How are you, man?
I'm doing very good, man. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, man. I appreciate you having me on the show. I appreciate the introduction. That was a nice call in.
That is awesome, man. All right, well, let's just start out for everybody who maybe doesn't know you. Maybe you can introduce your name, where you're from, and maybe how long you've been into professional wrestling.
Yeah, so my name's Evan Golden. I'm from Asheville, North Carolina, and I've been in the professional wrestling business as a wrestler for about 4 years now. I started in 2021, and it's full steam ahead so far, man. It's been going good.
That is awesome. So, like, at what age was it that you actually kind of gravitated more towards pro wrestling?
Well, I knew that I wanted to wrestle for sure around age 20, and that's when I, kind of got going. But I always sort of felt like I wanted to wrestle, like always deep down when I was like maybe 4 or 5. But that's just kind of because of my upbringing, I think that has a lot to do with it. I've been around wrestling my whole life, so seeing it so young, I always could kind of tell like I really want to do it, but I wasn't until I was around 20 years old that I actually, seriously pursued it. But it's been my whole life. So
That is awesome. Well, we're definitely gonna have to get into your training and kind of getting into pro wrestling. But did you have any like favorite wrestlers when you started to really watch the product?
yeah, so I had a lot of wrestlers that I enjoyed watching on TV as a kid. I really enjoyed wrestlers. Well, I enjoyed AJ Styles, Jeff Jarrett. I watched a lot of the early TNA days, but then my family would always show me really old school wrestling, like, Ric Flair, Arn Anderson. I really enjoyed watching Brian Pillman Sr. And so I kind of had a little bit of everything in front of me. I had, stuff that was on TV that I enjoyed, like, the old X Division. But then my dad was like, "Here, let me show you this tape." And I was like, "Man, this looks like 100 years old." But it wasn't. It was just, but it was good. And I've seen, fortunately for me, I guess I've seen all different kinds of wrestling. But those I really enjoyed watching Kenny Omega as a teenager, and he's definitely one of my favorites. But yeah, I've seen a lot of wrestlers, and I have a lot of favorites that I've kind of taken things from. But yeah, it's been awesome.
That is so cool. Well, I have two questions for you that kind of line up with your character, and something that I've always asked people and something that they've always explained is that you kind of take certain attributes of your favorite wrestlers and then intertwine them with parts of your personality. So, like,
Yeah.
where did you kind of get, some of your inspiration from said wrestlers? And then maybe what were some of your personality traits that you kind of intertwined together?
Yeah, so I think that, for example, to be a little bit more in depth about it, I feel like when I first watched Kenny Omega when I was younger, I was like, man, this is like the first thing that went into my brain was if I wrestled, I would want it to look like that because I liked the pacing, I liked the energy. But then, when I would watch older wrestlers, well, even like Ric Flair, I really enjoyed his character work back in the day. I would watch that and think like, man, that's like it's perfect. And and then people like Brian Pillman, I really liked how he almost seemed a little crazy because sometimes I think I am a little bit. So when I watch stuff like that, I'm like, man, I feel like a lot of these people remind me of me, and it kind of opened my eyes to, well, maybe I am sort of like them deep down. Maybe I do have a lot of that personality and energy and stuff. And so it's always good to find wrestlers that remind you of yourself, because it goes to show that you can, like you said, intertwine those things and make you your own wrestler. So, and I'm glad that I've been able to do that to the best that I can.
That is so cool. So, if you could kind of explain to everybody who maybe doesn't know you, what is the Evan Golden character?
The Evan Golden character. Well, here's what's really strange. I feel like the Evan Golden character is just me, and it's so complicated because I actually had an opportunity a couple of years ago, and a higher up person at this opportunity was like, what's your gimmick? Like, what's who are you?" And it was so hard because I had to stand there and be like, I'm me, and I'm wrestling. But here's the thing, it's not that I don't have a character. It's just that the I guess my character is me to at a whole different level. And but I'm proud of it though, because I feel like that makes it easier for me. I don't think I'm somebody that could, put on a mask or something and, you know, try to be some luchador or something. So I like that I'm myself. But that essentially is my character, is I am me. I like to be, energetic, and so I guess I know it's a boring answer, but that's
No, that's totally fine. That is awesome. I know when I was talking to Jackhammer,
Mm,
he was kind of talking about how there's a difference between old school wrestling and the modern style of wrestling, where there's more
yeah.
high risk moves. There's more like, do you feel like going back to the basics and being able to really send those moves home is more beneficial than doing random spots?
Yeah, I would have to agree with that. I feel like one of the things missing in wrestling these days are making things mean something.
Yeah.
Like telling a story. I know that a lot of veterans and a lot of older wrestlers kind of beat that to death, and a lot of younger wrestlers like myself kind of, just, some of them will roll their eyes to it. But the fact of the matter is they're right. I think that I would much rather not break my neck and get the same crowd reaction by not having to break my neck, because you can get an even louder crowd reaction just by just doing something that's not that. And it's just some people aren't willing to give it a shot. But at the same time though, I've done some high risk things in my day, and some of them were stupid, and some of them I have no regrets. But I agree with that. I think that it means more to make moments and not hurt yourself, because sometimes you can hurt yourself and not really walk away from it that well. So
Yeah, that is
yeah.
really interesting. So,
Yeah.
like, whenever you're heading into a match, or maybe you show up at the venue for the day, kind of get the layout of this is when you're going to go on, this is what they want you to do. Do you have any like pre-match rituals that you kind of go through to get yourself set up and ready to go?
Yeah, I spend a lot of time personally with Headspace. I'll figure out what's going on, and I'll stretch and do stuff like that to prevent injury. Stretching's important. But at the same time, though, when I get that out of the way, I really like to spend a lot of time alone, so I can think about stuff and think about what's about to happen, just get in the zone. I feel personally like headspace is more important. Uh, but that's just how I operate. I also like to get pumped up and look good, but it's just a me thing. I like to step to the side and just, get things in order in my brain and spend more time preparing mentally, I guess. But everybody's different. But that's my thing for sure.
That is awesome. Well, I know you were just saying that it was around 2020 that you said you wanted to become a wrestler. And like, do you kind of remember the day where you were like, okay, I think I'm ready to take the leap? And what was going through your mind before you did?
Well, I basically lost my mind. I was on the internet. I was looking up gear, and I was doing all this stuff. And my dad was like, "Hey, you might want to not do that because you don't know how to wrestle yet." And I was like, "No, no, it's gonna be fine." But I was just ahead of it. I was just, like I said, I wasn't in in the right headspace. I was really excited to start, and I was so excited. So I just didn't really think about what needed to be done, like, learning how to wrestle. If anyone wants any advice, learn how to wrestle before wrestling. But I was so excited. But I do remember that even though I was really amped up and ready to go, at least I was sure of it. Like I said, there was a lot of times in my teenage years I was like, I just don't know if I'd be a good wrestler. I don't know if I'd like wrestling. But that around that point in time was when I was like, I'm gonna do this, and the rest is history. So
Interesting. Well,
yeah,
I know we had kind of touched on a little bit about you being a second generation wrestler. Do you
yeah.
feel like that has actually added more pressure to you when it comes to performing?
I- like crazy. It's actually it's been pressure since day one. I think a lot of people, even from when I announced that I was going to be a wrestler, and showed people what I was going to look like, and when pictures for my first match came out, I feel like a lot of people, I had a lot of messages saying, "Hey, are you not going to wear this like your dad did?" Or, "Hey, are you?" But then, fortunately though, there wasn't too much of that. But like even from day one, it was just a lot of comparison, and I think that that's really where the pressure comes in, is comparison. A lot of people will look at you and like what they see and like the match, but then some people who knew your old man will look and say, well, you don't wrestle like him, or why don't you do this like he used to. But fortunately though, the good news is, and something that I was really fortunate to experience, is my dad never wanted me to be like him. He never was like, oh, you need to do this like me, or you need to look like me. He just let me be my own wrestler, and that took a lot of pressure off, just knowing that he wasn't expecting me to be like a carbon copy. That's really what I was worried about at first, but then I realized, that's a good thing that he never really pushed that. I think it's made him more proud, me being myself, and fortunately that's taken a lot of pressure off. But yeah, there's, like I say, comparison. That's absolutely something that I've had to deal with, but fortunately I'm my own man, and I'll just move forward, and my dad's happy with it, and that's all I can say. That makes me proud. So
That is really cool. So, like,
yeah.
how was it for you kind of growing up and being around professional wrestling? Like, was your dad one of your major, like, idols as far as a pro wrestler?
Yes, and matter of fact, I was going to mention that earlier. He's also one of my favorite wrestlers, if not my favorite wrestler, because he's the first wrestler I ever saw wrestle, and also he's just, there's shoes I'll never be able to fill, and he's absolutely my hero. And also, not only did I see him wrestle, for the first time when I was probably a baby, I've just been around all just stuff that a lot of kids probably haven't seen up close, like locker rooms and stuff like that. And that definitely was something that I thought was normal back then. But when I try to explain it to a lot of other people, they're like, man, that's crazy. Because I was on the road when I was like 4 or 5 years old with him, just thinking that that was like what everybody else was doing. And it wasn't. So that's just kind of part of that journey of like being around the business and stuff. It's always been a part of my life, and but so I've seen some wild things, but I certainly think that my dad is my idol and my favorite for sure, and there's no debate about it. So
Yeah. I saw this one photo on Facebook, and you were standing, I think you were next to him, and you were holding the Dixie Championship Wrestling Hall of Fame kind of moniker.
yeah,
So were you a part of that ceremony when he was inducted?
I was a part of the ceremony, and that was a special day. I actually had a match. I was in a tag team match, and he was there watching. And right after our match, they had the ceremony. So I went to the back and threw a shirt on, and I wanted to be up there with him. They gave him a Hall of Fame plaque for wrestling in the East Tennessee region for as long as he has, almost 30 years of wrestling in the region. And so he was rightfully awarded for his service in the business. And I was very excited to be standing with him too, because, like I said, I was there the whole time. So to be standing with him while he's getting an award, talking about that is it's always special. And he's gotten a few plaques in his day, and a lot of awards, and the utmost respect from everybody. But that was cool to actually be able to be standing there, and see it up close. And yeah, that was a special day for sure. So
Yeah. So like
it was
when
cool.
he was sitting there and he actually received um the plaque and everything, did you kind of find yourself getting a little bit emotional?
Yes, absolutely. I actually, that's kind of when everything started to really feel set in stone and like reality. When he was getting the award, we were in the same building that I'd seen him wrestle in a lot growing up. So that was kind of when my eyes opened, and I was like, wait a minute, he's getting this award for all these years of wrestling, but I just had a match in here, and he's had 100 matches in here, and now I just did, and it's like the whole thing in my mind, it kind of unraveled, and I was like, man, this is a special feeling. It's definitely the first time that I've gotten emotional in wrestling, that I, kind of realized how, full circle that is. So yeah, that was an awesome night. And he let me keep the plaque, by the way. I forgot to mention that he likes to give me his stuff if anybody gives him an award. Yeah, he says it looks better on my wall, even though it's not my award. So I don't know why he does that, but I appreciate it because I get to, I'm proud. So
Yeah.
I enjoy looking at the awards and stuff. So
That is awesome.
yeah,
So
it
how
was
was it
cool.
for you when you were actually able to perform for the first time in front of your dad?
Well, here's the thing about it. I performed for the first time in front of him on my first match because he managed me. And that was a really cool moment. It wasn't so much emotional as it was more like eye-opening, because I remember right before my first match ever, him and I were standing behind the curtain, and he's like, all right, you ready? And I was just kind of like, I guess so. I was like a nervous wreck. And he's like, all right, you ready? And it felt so weird because all I've ever seen him do is walk out and have his own matches for my whole life. And then I was like, man, I'm about to go out there. And it was just so weird. And then, we went out to the ring, and he had to watch me have my whole first match, which I'm sorry he had to see that up close. But at the same time,
Oh, hold on one second. Yeah, give us 1 second, you guys. We apologize. Oh no. Yeah, give us 1 second, you guys. We're gonna reconnect here. There we go. We got it back on.
hey, man, can you hear me?
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, so sorry about
Awesome.
that.
Oh, you're good, man. That was probably me. Where did I leave off?
Oh shoot, I'm totally
Oh,
lost.
no, let me go. Let me go back. Let me go back.
No, you're good.
Anyways, my dad walked me to the ring for my first match,
Okay.
and he saw the whole thing up close, and it was just a really, really surreal moment, because like I say, I've seen him perform for years from the stands, and just having him at ringside was like, man, this is crazy. But it was also really cool because he kind of helped me get my foot in the door immediately by walking me to the ring. He didn't have to do that, and he said, you know what, I'm walking you out. I'll be there for you at ringside. And that was really cool of him to do. And it wasn't the best match on the planet, but it was my first one. So what
Oh, that's awesome. So where were you professionally trained at?
I was trained basically I was trained by my dad, but I was also trained in hand by Easy Money, who people watching at home may remember from ECW, WCW, TNA. He's been all over the place. And Easy Money and my dad grew up together, and they basically agreed, like, we'll train him together.
Mhm.
So I basically started training in Easy's ring, and everything was just kind of homegrown. But that was kind of it was special to do it that way because I know a lot of people go the traditional route and go to wrestling school, and I think that's great, and I think that's what everybody should do. But I feel like doing it this way helped me make a lot of mistakes that I needed to make on my own and like learn on my own. Like, hey, I know what to you kind of learn along the way. So that was kind of a yeah, I think that kind of added a special challenge to me in my career, but also I really enjoyed my training from them because like I said, they grew up together and they both kind of agreed like we're gonna make him the wrestler he'll become, and it was a cool process.
Yeah, very
It was
interesting. Well,
awesome. Yeah.
yeah. Well, I've heard from people that the one thing that they were not expecting when getting into pro wrestling training is the
Yeah.
bumping or how much that sucks. Is there anything that like you kind of pinpointed where you were like, I was not expecting that from what I have to do?
Yeah, this is gonna sound ridiculous, but I actually thought that the feeling of hitting the ropes was weird. I remember just running and hitting the ropes. I was like, that was weird that I just even did that because it was my first day, and I was like, I've seen this my whole life, and now I'm doing it, and and then I took my first bump, and I hated that. I had a headache for like a week. So yeah, I mean, they're right. I think the first day of breaking in to be a wrestler is a lot like that, where your eyes are open and you're like, this is no joke. This doesn't tickle. And I definitely I definitely agree. But yeah, I think bumping and stuff was strange at first, but fortunately I've gotten acclimated to it, and everybody does. Well, some people don't, I guess. Some people just don't want to continue. But fortunately, I wanted to move forward. It didn't bother me that bad that I wanted to stop. But well, I don't know though. For a minute though, the first day, I was like, I feel horrible. I was like, I can't imagine doing this all the time. My head hurts, my back hurts. But then your body gets used to it, and then that's how it is in the business.
Yeah, interesting. Well, I know
Yeah.
I wanted to bring up to you because I saw that you were on the NWA with the Joe Costanza promotions. So, like, what's kind
Yes.
of the difference between like the original NWA and kind of that off promotion?
Yeah, so basically what's happening is the NWA has their main TV show called Power, and they also have pay-per-views and live events here and there under the NWA banner. But what
Okay.
the NWA has started doing is they've made a territory system, and they're trying to make it like the old territories. Like, they're taking actual regions and putting the NWA logo on it, which I think is awesome. And basically, for example, for NWA Joe Kazana, like, before that, it was just JCP. It was just Joe Kazana's promotion. It was his show. It was just JCP, and he ran for years. And then when it merged with the NWA, it became an official territory. It now has NWA on it. Billy Corgan has stuff to do with it, and it's now an NWA territory. So, and there's a ton of them now at this point. There's Crossfire, NWA New Mexico. They're basically NWA sub shows, and it's really good too because all of them NWA talent, like the champion Silas Mason, for example, he can go around all these different territories just like in the old days. and defend the title. And it's awesome. So that's where I got my start. Is Joe Kazana gave me a shot, and it's awesome. I had a lot of fun over there, and continue to do as many territory shows as I can, because it's very fun. You get to be around the whole NWA locker room.
Yeah, that is so
It's
interesting.
awesome.
So have
Yeah,
you
it's cool.
actually ever seen Billy Corgan in person?
I have. Billy Corgan is actually the one who put me with my tag team partner on the NWA territories. He's the one who set us up and put us together, and the rest is history. He wanted us to be I don't even. I guess he wanted us to be the creepy cult guys, and that's what happened. We call ourselves the Guiding Light. Matter of fact, we still team here and then, but he's the one who came up with the idea and the concept of it, and we got started. Like I say, Joe Kazana gave us a shot and got us rolling as a tag team, which was really cool. Because at first I didn't really know what to think about it, because I'm not gonna sit here and tell Billy Corgan no, and but I was also like, wow, that's weird. I don't know how that's gonna go. But it ended up being great. I love Michael Gabriel, and him and I have had countless matches together as a team, and it was awesome. It was really cool.
That is really awesome. That's awesome. So,
Yeah.
do you have any other favorite promotions that you really like to go and be able to perform for?
Well, speaking of these territory shows, I really enjoy also going to NWA Crossfire. That's another territory that's really fun to go to. There's also, other shows outside of that banner that I enjoy wrestling for. Um, Innovate Wrestling is one that I can't recommend enough in the Northeast Tennessee area. My dad wrestled there for a very long time, and that's a really good show that, like, consistently after all these years of being open, it's always been good. And there's also new shows coming around that I've enjoyed going to. There's one that just opened up called New World Wrestling. It's always good to see a new promotion open up and do good, and that's what they're doing. And yeah, there's places like that I'm like, this is good, and I enjoy wrestling there. I enjoy going to Virginia a lot. That's something that I've done since I started. I like going to Virginia because they're a very, I guess, old school crowd, and I think that's kind of how I was taught. So I like going there. So yeah, there's a lot of different spots here and there that I enjoy going to, and that I recommend to other wrestlers and fans to go watch. So
That's awesome. Well,
yeah,
before we get into the Guiding Light tag team, because that's something I definitely want to talk to you about. Do you have a
yeah.
favorite rivalry that you've actually been a part of?
Yes, I've got to go with KC Kazana. I've had countless matches with him that have been very back and forth, very violent, and I would do it again every day. I don't know how to explain it. It's like I go out there, we break each other's back and neck, and just we hurt each other, but then the next day I'm like, let's do it again, man. And it's like, I don't know how to explain it. It's like, but they always turn out to be really good matches. I also enjoy wrestling RT3. For those watching who have not heard of RT3, you should look him up. He's one of my favorite opponents, just because he always gives me a run for my money. And also, Kerry Morton, I want to throw his name out there. I've known Kerry my whole life, and I've only had one match with him, and it was actually for the NWA World's Junior Heavyweight title. And I've literally not had a match with him since, but I consider it one of my favorite matches I've had. So I guess I'll put him on the rivals list, because I know we'll meet again.
Oh, that is cool. So let's start to talk about the Guiding Light tag team, and it's Michael Gabriel that you tag with, correct?
Yes, sir.
Awesome. Okay, so like before you guys actually started to build the tag team, when did you kind of feel like you guys had that chemistry?
Oh yeah, okay. You know what's funny about this? I actually didn't think we had any chemistry, and that's no offense. That's no offense to him. It's not even like it's not. So what happened was is me and him kind of knew each other, but not really. Like I liked him. I thought he was a friendly person, I guess, but I just didn't really know him that well.
Yeah.
So I was just kind of like, well, he's cool, and he's a good wrestler even then. But I just didn't really like I said, his style's a lot different than mine, and his whole like attitude is a lot more like scarier than mine. So I was like, well, he's cool, but him and I'll never probably ever like wrestle or anything. And then Billy Corgan was like, I want you two to be a tag team. And I was just like, well, what's going on here? That doesn't make any sense to me because like him and I are so different. But then it ended up being awesome because at first I was like, well, I just don't know how this is gonna work. Like he wrestles like this and I wrestle like that, and But then, to be completely honest, I guess it's like the old saying, "Opposites attract," and oil and water. It was awesome. I immediately enjoyed teaming with him, and him and I have had a ton of matches on the NWA territory shows that I feel like are really good. And also, I mean, I've got to say too, like teaming with him's really helped me mold into being a better tag team wrestler. I feel like when me and him started, we didn't really do anything. We didn't have any moves that we wanted to do just because, and then it kind of evolved. So I've got to say, like, being paired together has been awesome. And, you know, any chance that we can reunite and team again is always like a huge pleasure. So yeah, it's awesome for sure.
That is cool. So, have you kind of always been a baby face in the eyes of the promoters?
Well, I certainly hope so. I can't speak. I can't speak for them. I bet they're all in the comments now, like, no, no. But the truth is, I feel like I'm a great guy. I do. I feel like I'm easy to work with, and if anybody doesn't think so, I'm sorry. But I've always enjoyed wrestling, and to me, like if they ask me to wrestle, then I go do it, and it's awesome. It usually goes well, and I guess I've never had any problems to answer your question, and
That-
and yeah, and I have a lot of respect for promoters too because I know I couldn't do it. I think my show would be a disaster. So
oh, that is so interesting. So, if you could ever imagine in your mind, what would it be like if you were a heel?
well, I feel like I certainly have. I have had my day in the sun. I've had a lot of people not like me in the crowd, um, and it's this kind of like I say earlier, like everything I do is me, and if they want to boo it, then I have a hard time feeling bad for them. That's it. That's all there is to it.
Oh, that's awesome. So,
Yeah.
let's kind of start to talk about AJ and Casey Kazana, the Country
Mm-hmm.
Gentlemen. Do you feel like you guys definitely have that chemistry of tag team versus tag team?
Yeah, I feel like that our match, so our match that we had, basically my NWA JCP debut was against them. It was me and Michael Gabriel against them on the first ever, like the inaugural show of JCP as a territory. And I, to this day, feel like it was the perfect, like, first tag team match for NWA fans to see. I feel like it was really back and forth. It felt very, what's the word I'm looking for? Territorial. I guess old school is what I don't know. I'm having a hard time thinking of the word. Old school is, I'll say old school because I just feel like it was a hard hitting match and perfect for that show. So yeah, I feel like it's definitely there. And then what's even cooler about that too is we can break apart and wrestle one on one, and it's still gonna steal the show, and that's a guarantee.
That's awesome. I know I was scrolling throughout your Facebook page and kind of going through your photos, and I found this photo of you holding like 4 different titles at once.
Yeah.
Can you kind of like walk us through each championship and maybe when you won it and what it was like to hold 4 titles?
Yeah, there's been a couple of instances in the past couple of years where I've had multiple championships at once, and in the most humble way I can put it, it's awesome because it makes for an awesome picture, but also it's, I get to wrestle more, which is great. The way I see it, the more titles that I have, the more I get to wrestle because you got to come back. When you're the champ, you got to go back and you got to defend the title. So when
Yeah,
you have multiple at once, you got to go out there and wrestle like you never have before. But I like that. I like that pressure of having to keep up with that. So yeah, like for example, in the picture, that really big giant title, that's the Beside the Ring Championship. I have had that for over a year now, and yeah, it's been a long run, and from time and time again, I defend it. Um, but then I'll also like another title that I won recently, the HWA Mid Atlantic title. That was kind of like their workhorse belt. That was really important for me to have because, I've got to put the work in. So having a championship's always really cool because you get to wrestle more and you just got to try to keep them on your shoulder. I actually defended the Beside the Ring championship against Heath Slater, of all people. And I don't want to talk about who won, but it was me. And I'll try not to make a big deal about it, but that's what happened.
that is really cool. That's
That's
actually
what
the
happened.
most perfect segue because I was actually just going to ask you about facing Heath Slater. So, like, how
Mm.
was it with him standing backstage and kind of going throughout the match and being like, did he kind of give you a little wiggle room to do your things to get your spots in?
Yeah, for sure. I feel like Heath was a total pro, and I couldn't recommend him more to anybody who wants to wrestle a name. Heath Slater had a great career in the WWE, and he was there for a long time. And for me to comfortably tell another wrestler like you will enjoy it, that's a huge compliment to him. So yeah, no, it was awesome to be around him, and it was awesome to learn from him. It was really a great learning experience to share the ring, and also just like having that title on the line too was really crazy because it's one thing to have a match with him anyways and someone like him, but then to have your championship, everyone's watching, and that was cool. And as far as the match goes, that's one of my favorite matches I've had. It was a really hard hitting match, but like in a good way. Like I would love to do it again.
That is so cool. Yeah, I was just
Yeah.
going to ask you how it kind of felt to be able to perform with somebody that was in the WWE for so long. Do you
Mhm.
feel like there was maybe pressure, like you had to be maybe more professional, or I don't know how to yeah.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean. I know what you're saying. I fortunately my default is professional, so like even if things went horribly wrong, I would just still be professional. But no, it was awesome. And to be completely honest, I felt like I fit in uh talking with someone like him. I don't know how to explain it. It just felt right. It felt smooth, and that's how it's supposed to feel.
Yeah.
And he's a pro, and I feel like getting to deal with someone like that, it felt right, and it made me kind of realize maybe I'm doing something right for this to be going so well. So I feel like it went great. I feel like working with someone with that sort of past can teach you so much, and it taught me a lot for sure. I still won the match. I just wanted to throw that out here on the podcast again. It's not a big deal, but I won. But anyways, I just want to say that.
Oh, dude, that is awesome. That is so cool.
It was
Um,
awesome, but it was cool, and I can't can't recommend that experience. So a lot of people think that they've got it all figured out until they're in the ring with someone who's been to the top of the ladder. It changes everything. So
That is awesome. Well, I wanted to ask you this because I don't think I've ever actually asked a wrestler this in an interview, but I'm
mhm.
pretty sure you see online this kind of tribalism between WWE and AEW, whether you're, people say I'm a WWE fan, I'm an AEW fan, and then you have on
Mm,
the opposite spectrum, you have fans that are professional wrestling fans, regardless of whatever company. So how do you feel
yeah.
being a wrestler and seeing that kind of tribalism?
To be honest, it's a little disappointing because since I'm actively wrestling, it's kind of scary to think that one day if I go somewhere, people won't be happy about it,
Yeah.
no matter what.
Mhm.
Like even if I become just the most perfect wrestler, if I go somewhere, there's gonna be people online that aren't happy about it. And that, like, to me, that like makes no sense. But at the same time though, um kind of seeing that happen from the inside, um it's kind of eye-opening. It's kind of like, what's for example, like I was doing work for TNA Wrestling, TNA, and which was an amazing experience. I was just helping out, and I did a couple of things on screen, but nothing crazy, just like extra work. And while I was there, like everybody online was just kind of going back and forth about what they just watched, and I was like, I literally saw the show you all just watched in the building, and you guys are fighting about it. When I'm like, what are you fighting about? That show was awesome. And I saw all the, we were talking about professionals. Like, I literally just saw all of these professionals go out there and do what they do best. And now everybody online is mad about it. It's weird. It kind of makes me feel like I could do the most pristine, perfect thing in the world, and everybody online is going to be upset about it. But then again, at the same time, it's a double-edged sword because I also am happy that people can talk about wrestling. I'm a big believer that there's not always, bad publicity. I feel like as long as people are talking about wrestling, well, then that means people are watching wrestling. And to me, that's much better than everybody being like, what is all that? Like, what it, what are these shows anyways? To me, the fact that people are actually arguing about it means they're watching it. So it's a double-edged sword. On one side of the coin, I'm like, man, we need to be nice to each other. This is wrestling. But then the other part of me is like, well, at least you all are talking about it. And
Yeah.
I don't know how to feel. It's definitely a strange time. But then again, I guess that's always been a thing. Even back before I was born, people were going back and forth about it. And I guess it's just a thing that's always gonna happen.
That is awesome. So, do you feel like there's anything that is kind of missing in today's pro wrestling?
Mm. Yeah, well, I think you brought it up. We kind of touched about this. I really do feel like the one thing that's missing is probably moments and making things mean something. I think a lot of people want to do certain things that are impressive, but sometimes it's not so impressive if it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I feel like, to me, the one thing that could be missing is solid storylines that finish, where you actually see the end of the story and you're like, man, that was awesome, and people talk about it years later. Now it feels like a lot of stories start and don't finish, and a lot of focus is on, let's do this thing and this thing, but there's not a lot of focus on why are we even having this match. It's like, I feel like that's something. I feel like a lot of wrestling is it's weird. Like, there's parts of this new age that I'm in that I think is awesome, and then there's other parts I'm like, well, this could be more of a story. But you know what? Wrestling's evolving, things change, but I do think that that's one thing that's missing, finishing a story. I feel like there's so many things that start and don't finish. And I think that's a problem. I think that needs to be fixed because, it's why people watch.
Yeah, that is so interesting. So, how many awards have you won throughout your career? Because I know you also were given Breakout Star of the Year. How did that feel to receive that?
It was awesome. A funny story. I actually didn't know. Nobody actually told me I won the award until the day they were handing out the awards live on YouTube. So, to anybody who set that up watching this, I don't appreciate that because I was in the back, not paying attention, and they said run out there and go get your award, which threw me off. But you know what? I love a good surprise, and it was cool to go out there, and I got an award. Like you said, it was breakout star, and that's just like I said, that's just one of those things that I think about. I'm like, I can't believe this has happened because it's just awesome that I've even broken out. Now I'm getting an award saying breakout star. It makes you feel accomplished, makes you feel like everything you're doing is being seen. So anytime you can get some sort of accolade like that, it's cool. And it's even better when you don't see it coming. You're like, hey, thanks guys. You're like, I appreciate it.
That is awesome. Um, so I wanted to bring up to you something I found really interesting. I was watching the Undertaker's 6 Feet Under podcast, and
Yeah.
he was kind of talking about how one thing that he wishes that wrestlers would kind of do more now is work on selling. Where would you kind of put
Mhm.
that in the like not top echelon of what you should focus on, but where would you put that on a scale?
I would definitely put it towards the top of the scale, absolutely. I think that's another thing, to kind of go back to the question about what's missing. I was talking about how I feel like stories don't finish, but another thing about this topic is I feel like there's a lot of not selling,
Mhm.
um, which to me, I mean, I just can't really understand that. That doesn't really make a lot of sense to me.
Yeah.
But it happens. It's happening today more than it did back then. Uh, People will do something magnificent to one another, and it doesn't seem to phase the other person. And I don't
Mhm.
really understand I'm like, how did that even come about? How did this make any sense? And so yeah, I absolutely think I personally in my own playbook think that selling is one of the most important things that you do, period. I think honestly I would focus on that first. And I'm not a trainer, I'm not a wrestling coach. I'm just saying I think that's really important, and I do think that if you don't do that, it's no good. And then that's just what I say. But
Mm.
because like I said, I can't imagine not selling, and that's the thing that happens these days. And it's strange, and people online talk about that too. They're like, you know why did that person not get hurt by what just happened? People get right back up like a cartoon, and it's got to stop. It's got to stop.
That's funny. Well, I also saw on your Facebook page that you're going to be coming up against James Anthony, and he said that it
Hmm.
was 3 years in the making. So, what can we
Yes.
actually expect from that match?
Well, matches like this are always really special because when two people are really wanting to have this match and it's just nobody's putting it together, and then it finally happens, you just have all this stuff that you want to do, and you're like, I've been thinking about this for so long, and now this show is finally going to get to see it. That's how I feel about this match. I feel like me and James Anthony will more than likely uh have one of the best matches on the show, if not the best one. That's a humble Evan Golden speaking. I'm just saying it's how it is. It's been years of, it's like you know, it's just years of pulling it back, and then shoot, and then we got to go. And that's what we're going to do. And so if anybody wants to see live wrestling, I would come to that match because this is literally been building I'm trying to think of a good metaphor here. It's like a volcano spilling over. That's what it's like, and that's what it's gonna be. That's what it's gonna be like when you come see the show.
That is awesome. Well, all right. Well, I got two more questions for you. So what do
Sure.
you want to accomplish here in 2026? What are some of your goals?
Well, I feel like one of the things that I would like to do more this year is focus on a little bit more singles matches. We were talking about Michael Gabriel earlier, and him and I have done some awesome stuff together. We've had tons of tag matches. I've had tons of tag matches even without him. Just, those things happen where you end up doing that. And my dad was a tag team wrestler too. So, it's good to learn that and be a good tag team wrestler. But this year, I really want to focus on what I can do all on my own. I feel like this is the year that is going to stand the test of Evan Golden's time. I really do. I feel like every time I go out there, I just feel like I want everybody on the planet to watch it. That's just how I feel. So this year in 2026, I'm going to wrestle like everybody's watching, and I have no regrets.
That is freaking awesome. All right.
Yeah.
Well, just as a final question for you, I want to ask you, like, what does professional wrestling mean to you?
Oh man, that's a good question. That's a good one. Well, the fact of the matter is, professional wrestling's my whole life, and it's been my whole life since I was born. It's all I've ever known. It's all I've ever seen up close. There's a lot of other things that I like to do. I like to, I have a ton of different hobbies that I enjoy doing, but wrestling's always been there, and I feel like it's always going to be there. When you're kind of in this wrestling family, it just doesn't go away. It's just like, even when you're not supposed to be thinking about it, you're thinking about it. So, yeah, I just, yeah, that's for sure. What was the question again? I started rambling.
No, you're fine. It was just, what does professional wrestling mean to you?
Oh, yeah. So it means everything. Is my whole life. And hold on, let me think of there's more to it. There's a ton to it, honestly. It's like an onion. It's like, well, it's probably the reason I was born. It's all I really know how to do. I'm really good at it, I feel like sometimes. But the fact of the matter is I love wrestling and I love this business, and there's always gonna be something for me to do as long as I'm around. And I'm gonna keep doing what I do best, and that's just be a part of it. And it's just kind of hard to believe, that I've been around it so long, but I love it, so it's okay.
That is awesome. All right. Well, where can everybody find you on social media if they're interested?
Yeah, so I post a lot on Facebook. You can look up Evan Golden. I've got a couple of pages. I've got like a page you can follow on there, and then there's one that you can actually add as a friend. Both of those pages with me are me, and that's where I post everything about what I'm up to. You can also find me on Instagram. I'm on there as well, and that's where I post awesome pictures, and I post a lot of clips on there as well. TikTok. I've been trying to learn this whole TikTok thing. So look, I've actually tried the past couple of days to make a couple. I don't get that many views, so if anybody's watching, please go follow my TikTok so people can watch it. And I'm also on Pro Wrestling Tees. That's where I release my merch. If you go on prowrestlingtees.com and look up Evan Golden, all of my merchandise is there. I've got some new designs up now. So if you want to represent Evan Golden, then that's the place to go. And I appreciate anybody who follows me on social media. I do.
That is freaking awesome, man. Well, I just want to thank you so much for you actually taking time out of your day so that I can sit here and ask you all of these questions. It has been an absolute pleasure.
No, man, I appreciate you, man. This has been a great conversation, and I appreciate you giving me the platform to introduce myself, and it was fun, man. I appreciate you asking such great questions.
All right, man. Well, I hope you have a very, very good night, and I'll talk to you later.
You too, man. See you later.
Well, all right, you guys. So that was Interesting's podcast interview with Evan Golden. Make sure to hit that like and subscribe button. Ring that notification bell so you guys get notified whenever I upload content. Make sure to go and follow me on social media at CodyT503. That's Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. I hope you all have a very, very good night. I'll catch you guys later.